Hey, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. If you are on here, please get those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion who you think may find it interesting. And thank you for hanging out with me today. Oh, looks like we're having some issues here. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for hanging out. Y'all have to excuse me. I was trying to be on here a little bit earlier today as I originally planned, and then I just was having some issues with my nails, so I had to get that taken care of, y'all. But anyways, thank you so much for being here. Also, happy Black History Month. It is February. It is officially Black History Month. If y'all don't know, so I had to represent a little bit. Black or Popular Demand. So definitely, y'all, stay tuned. There's going to be some more Black history facts coming up. We'll be talking about all of it. So I'm excited about that. Also, let me see really quick. I also want to give a special shout out to those of you who shown some love on Cash App. I received a little love offering yesterday in honor of the 1 year anniversary for Shay Sharday. So I appreciate that. I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate you being here. You could be literally anywhere else right now, but you're hanging out with me. And like I said, I'm grateful. So we're going to talk a little bit about struggle love tonight. Struggle love. Again, those of you who are on here, get those likes up. I want to make sure y'all can hear me, right? Because I was having some crazy issues yesterday. Okay, so y'all can hear me, right? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Yeah, y'all, I did a whole live yesterday, members only, and like half of the live, I was unmuted and hadn't. It was a struggle, but anyway, so we're gonna try to get this going today. But yes, get those likes up, y'all. I know this is a little later than what I usually do, and I'm probably competing with some larger channels, but hey, that is okay. That is okay. So yes, we're going to be talking a little bit about struggle love, and what that actually means, and what I think is realistic for women, modern women today, to expect and to just be aware of when they are out there in the dating market. So I believe that struggle love, ladies, struggle love is your only, or rather your most likely option. Now, listen, how do I define struggle love? I would not say struggle love is, you know what I mean, some dude beat you up, you in and out of in and out of jail visiting him, you're dealing with, adultery, you're dealing with DV. That is not struggle, that is toxic. That is toxic love. You know what I mean? You can't communicate. Y'all fighting every few minutes. You throwing him out the house. He throwing you out the house. That is toxic love, y'all. That is toxic. That is unhealthy. Love should not even be in the same sentence as that. So when I say struggle love, I am not referring to you getting beat up, you getting abused, you being misused, you being lied on. Like I said, that is toxic. When I use the word struggle love, really what that is any relationship, any romantic relationship, whatever that you engage in, that is going to have a level of struggle. And to be honest, if you are a human being in a relationship with another human being, you're going to have struggle. There's going to be struggle. There's no way around it. And see, here's the thing. There is this idea going around right now that women, if they, play their cards right, if they wait, if they pray, if they manifest love, if they do the right tarot card, do the right prayer, whatever it may be, if they do this little right formula, they're going to get a love without struggle. But they're going to find a love without struggle. And like I said, that is not the case. So if you are here, please get those likes up. Shout out to all of you guys who are here. But like I said, that's not reality. You're never, first of all, you're never going to find a perfect person. If they are perfect, then why are they going to want you? Because you definitely ain't perfect, okay? And secondly, if you are a human being in a relationship with another human being, there's no way it's going to be without struggle. Now, here's, I think, where it gets really, really, really complicated. Is because, again, you go back to this idea of women right now saying they don't want to build a boo, they don't want to build a man, they kind of want like a plug and play is what I heard. I heard it, okay, some of these females want a plug and play man. I think that was Obsidian who said that. Yeah, so it's like this idea that, hey, I want a guy that's ready-made, that's going to, pay all the bills or carry the heavy load, do all these things, so I as a woman don't have to struggle. Right. And then we look to different celebrities. We look to different people who are in power. We look to different, athletes. We look to the housewives, all these television shows that really paint this picture of a lifestyle that maybe the top 5% or 10% at best of Americans live. Right. Like a very, very lavish lifestyle that is unattainable for most people. And if you as a woman believe that struggle love is having to work with a guy or be with a guy who maybe isn't making 6 or 7 figures, if you think that struggle love is having to walk with a guy along his career journey, if you're not willing to work with a man, right? If you are in a position where you feel like, hey, I'm waiting for a plug and play man, the reality is you're going to be waiting for a very, very long time. And that person may never come because this hypergamous lifestyle dream that is being pushed and literally shoved down our throat every second of every day through Instagram, through social media, through this celebrity worship culture, that is not reality of most people. Most men and women who come together, if they decide to commit together, if they decide to marry, there is going to be struggle on the path of them building because most people are not billionaires and millionaires. And so what I wanted to do really quick was just bring up just briefly what is actually happening in the economy today. What is your average person making? What are people's living situations like? What is their income? I wanted to go over that just really briefly because I think while it's good to dream, it's good to have ideas, it's good to have desires even of wanting a particular life, wanting a certain life. It's really bad if we just live in fantasy all the time. And like I said, I think unfortunately for us women, more than anything, there is this fantasy that is being fed to us over and over and over again. And no one is saying, hey, can we look at the reality? Let's actually look at what's going on. You're probably not going to marry a millionaire. And if you do end up with a millionaire, it's probably not going to be a plug and play. Maybe you marry him when he's younger. Maybe you guys build together, you work together, you're with him as he goes throughout his career. I mean, this is what I appreciate about Kevin Samuels. I'm not saying he's perfect, but it's like, he's like, okay, if you want a guy that makes 6 figures, are you ready to marry somebody who's at least 40? Because men usually don't even get to that point until they've been working 20 years. But if you're wanting a millionaire who's mid-20s, you know what I mean? He's ripped, he's buff, all these different things. It's like that person doesn't exist. And this is how you got women, I think, who are being, sometimes they're having unrealistic expectations or they're getting in scenarios and they're disappointed, just all this different kind of stuff. And so, again, there is no love without struggle. So struggle love is your only option because if you're a human being in a relationship with another human being, there's going to be struggle, period. Secondly, if you live in America today and you live in the economy that everybody else lives in, majority of people are not walking around like these celebrity superstars that we see and that some of us look up to. So again, it's okay to dream and it is okay to have desires and it is okay to have wants, but it has to be done within the context of reality of what is happening, what is going on. And it should not be done within the context, or it should not be compared to what the top, like I said, 1% of people are experiencing. Like I said, we shouldn't go and look at Rihanna, right, who is now having a baby, and say, oh, I should be a single mother too because she can do it and I look up to her. Bad idea. She's a billionaire. How many people do you know that are billionaires? So if you're on here, please get those likes up. Shout out to Eugene Still for the 5 on the Cash App. I see. Oh, 5 in the super chat. I see situations of struggle love is really nothing more than just a big test of how willing a couple can support each other through turbulent times. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? You have a really good point. There are couples that I know who, by all intents and purposes, could be the perfect match, right? Match made in heaven. And they still go through struggles. That's, like I said, that's just a part of human experience. That's a part of life. Okay. You know, you go ups and downs, you have good times, you have bad times, you have, seasons of plenty, you have seasons of lack, you have times when things work really well and times when things, that's just life. There's different seasons. So I'm saying, but so often I think I see struggle love. I see that term used to characterize or describe what's actually just real life, as if a woman shouldn't expect real life, as if a woman shouldn't be prepared for what it's going to take to navigate a relationship. And I'm like, that's unhealthy, because if you think that being in a relationship, there's all these things are supposed to come easy to you, all this stuff is supposed to just automatically happen, good luck. Like I said, if the guy's so perfect, then why is he going to want you? Because you're not. So I want to bring up, real quickly, like I said, this isn't going to be long. We can handle this really quickly, but this is the income and poverty in the United States. This is from the United States Census Bureau that they just released back in September of last month. So I want to go quickly over the information because, again, I think this is the kind of stuff that we need to know. Okay, it's okay to dream. It's okay to, have your visions, all this kind of different stuff. But it is okay to have faith. But I'm like, faith does not deny reality. Just faith sees reality through the right perspective. But having faith doesn't mean that you just overlook things. I hear that sometimes too. We're just like, oh, I just have faith. Oh, I just believe. Faith is not denying reality. Okay, faith looks at reality. And then maybe he can be like, okay, this is what's going on, but I believe in a God, or I believe in this, and I'm going to move forward. Okay, but you still got to be proactive in that. You also can't just have faith and not do anything. So like I said, there's all these things you throw around, and we just don't even really understand what we're saying because it's just mythos, it's mythology. It's just like I said, all these ideas that aren't based on anything. So we're going to look at what are people actually making in America. Like I said, this is from the U.S. States Census Bureau, so I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. I'm just not pulling this stuff out of nowhere, y'all, because I like to get haters on here who like to pretend like I just make up numbers. So we are pulling from, again, the U.S. State Census Bureau. This was published not too long ago, September 14th, 2021. So it says income and poverty in the United States. Introduction. It says this report presents data on income, earnings, income inequality, and poverty in the United States based on information collected in the 2021 and earlier current population. Yeah, so basically it should tell you where all this stuff is coming from. Now here's where it gets important. Highlights income. The median household income in 2020 was $67,521. A decrease of 2.9% from the 2019 median of $69,560. This is the first statistically significant decline in median household income since 2011. So again, basically, they're looking at the median household income. And again, that is different. That is different than what one person makes. This is an entire household. So this is essentially two adults working together. The average of last year was about $67,521, and that was a decrease. And it says that was the biggest decline they've seen since 2011. Of course, this is not surprising. We know there are very many people last year who were struggling financially, just struggling a lot of different ways. So that is not surprising. Oh, actually, it looks like, sorry about that. Yeah, so it's not surprising. But so again, average household income, not medium household income, ladies, 67,522. Okay. So if we look at, it says the 2020 real median incomes of family households and non-family households decreased 3.2% and 3.1% from other respective 2019 estimates. So I looked through this report and, surprise, surprise, a lot of things decreased. Why? Because of pandemic. People lost jobs. People were furloughed. There was all this kind of different stuff. So it's to be expected that during a pandemic, people's economic mobility and opportunity is going to go down. Y'all, it's going to go down. Now, why is that important? If you are on this hypergamy, level up, expand your options BS, it's like, okay, hypergamy, so you're going to marry into another class. I've mentioned this in another video before. It's like the US is ranked last in comparison to first world or developed nations, but it was ranked last in upward mobility, which is a person's ability to move from class to class. So we can't go around acting like all these women, you know what I mean? All these Black women that are growing up in working class environments, or just all these women in general just working in work class environments, are just going to be able to marry outside of their class and it's going to be okay. That's not reality. That's not what's going on. People aren't just marrying into their class. And like I said, especially if you are coming from a wealthy family, do you think they're going to just easily hand their money over to whoever? You think they're just going to oh, you don't have an education? Oh, you came from a family with addicts? Okay, yeah, let me sign my wealth over to you. Like, it doesn't work like that. People who are really on that level, they do marriages, basically like arranged marriages at a certain point. So we can't just think that you can just marry into a higher class. Like it can happen, but it's very rare. It is very rare. And most of us just don't qualify. And like I said, if you don't believe me, look at I think it's the OECD. They just released a report again that said, US, how likely are you to, move from class to class? It's lower. It's harder. Anyways, moving on. Shout out to Hakeem for the 15 on the super chat. Much appreciated. If you were here, please put those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion or share it. I know I'm a little later today than normal. Y'all have to excuse me. I was having some issues with my nails, y'all, first world problems, but I needed to get my nails handled. So here we are. And we are talking about struggle love and why struggle love is really the only option for women who actually want to get married. Just one period. Because like I said, if you live in the real world, then there's going to be struggle. Look, even billionaires have struggles. Even rich people have struggles. But anyway, so we're actually looking at what people are making. I'm not making this stuff up. We were looking at the U.S. Census Bureau, right? They released this a few months ago. We're strictly going over what they've said. So we've discovered that the income has gone down since the previous year and that this is the sharpest kind that they had since 2011. This is not surprising. Now we're moving on. It says the 2020 real median household incomes of non-Hispanic whites, Asians, and Hispanics decreased from their 2019 medians, while the change for Black households was not statistically different. So actually not surprising. And there's probably reasons for that. But basically it says, yeah, so whites, Asians, Hispanics, their income went down. It kind of was a little bit more stagnant for Black people, probably because to a certain extent, unemployment tends to be higher for Black men and just Black folks in general due to just different reasons. Anyways, moving on, it says in 2020, real median household incomes decreased 3.2% in the Midwest and 2.3% in the South and the West from the 2019 medians. The change for the Northwest was not statistically significant. So y'all, what we have seen so far is that essentially, if we're looking at income, there's been a decrease just all across the board. Now it's impacted, they've seen a sharper increase in, white households, Asian households, Hispanic households. Black folks are like, it's not been statistically different, but either way, all families in America saw a decrease in income, a decrease in their income because of the pandemic. Okay, let's just keep that for what it is. And like I said, this was the median household income. Now, if we go into individual earnings, it says the real earnings of all workers age 15 and over with earnings decreased 1.2% between 2019 and 2020, from $42,065 to $41,535. So again, this is the real median earnings of workers, those who are available to work. We're looking at about 42,000. Now, of course, this is going to vary slightly by race and by gender. But again, if we're just looking at the pure numbers, around $42,000, that's what your average American is making. So, okay. That's what your African American is making. Again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's anything to be ashamed of, but just to set the record straight. This is average. This is what your typical, this is something to be expected, right? Now, why is this important? Why is it important that your average household, median household last year, and again, granted, this is just last year, but still, last year it was about 67,000 as a household, and individual was about 42,000. Now, why are those numbers important? The reason those numbers are important is because if you think that off of $42,000, you're going to be leveling up, or you're going to be finding somebody to level up and to marry into a higher class, like that's going to make a difference. It's like, where are we getting these ideas from? Here's my big question. Where have we lovely ladies gotten the idea that it's just everything is just going to just kind of come like that? Like it's just going to come easy. That this Prince Charming is just going to come and sweep you off your feet, and it's just going to be, tulips and daisies. Like, where did that idea come from? Because again, if we look at what actually people are making and how they are living right now, they're not living like that. They're not living like that. African American women in particular have, I think, like the highest debt, or if it's not the high, they said it was 22. I think it was about 22% higher than at least white women at the very least. I just did a report on this. I can drop the link to that in this description box too. But basically it's saying, look, Black women, we can argue we're the most educated, we can argue back and forth, but even if that is the case, now a lot of us actually are ending up with much more debt. So there's the debt that's happening, and then there's like the low wages, or average wages that's happening. And when we're looking at all these economic factors, the fact that people's income has gone down due to the pandemic because of the income, while inflation has gone up, all these different things. Where do we come up with this idea that all of a sudden ladies are just supposed to just level up? Because my question is, where are you leveling up to? Who are you leveling up to? What I just showed you, that's impacting everybody, men and women. Of course, this is going to vary slightly by different ethnic groups and by different genders, but all across the board, your average person isn't living like a millionaire. So again, if we just think that every single woman is going to deserve or have access to this rich man, that's just not reality. There's going to be women out there who are going to marry a guy who's making $42,000, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But my thing is, do not confuse real life with struggle love. Like, don't think, or toxic love. Don't think that because you're having a real life experience that, oh, this must be toxic. Like, there's something better out there. Because like I said, we cannot look to movie stars. We cannot look to superstars. We cannot look to the top 1% as examples of how we're supposed to live our life, or examples of how to move forward, because they are in a completely different really paradigm, almost like a different paradigm. Us everyday average human beings, this is what's going on. Your average person making around 42,000, you know what I mean? Median household income around 67,000 according to the US Census Bureau. And depending upon where you go, that's a struggle. That itself is a struggle. And again, if 1/3 of Black women are at or below the poverty line, where do we come up with this idea that we deserve something that's so glamorous or so rich or so? Where are we getting these ideas? I think personally, what would be helpful is to look at the situation, look at what's going on, and say, okay, this is what it is. This is the economy. This is what people are making. Here's where I'm from. Here's what's around me. Here's what I have access to, what I have available to. And then you move based upon that. I caution any woman who would get their ideas of what love is supposed to look like They get it from Instagram, they get it from social media, they get it from other YouTube channels or just channels in general that are sharing narratives or sharing pictures that have no story behind it. You don't know what's going on from Adam. You don't know if that person is beating the other person. Like, I challenge that. I challenge you not to get caught up in this, the social media hashtag couple goals and use it as your idea of how to construct what you think should be a healthy relationship. Because that, like I said, the glitz and glam is not real life. Your average person today, as far as if you're looking dating and mating, you're looking at a guy that's making around $42,000. Again, this is all going to change based upon location. Out here in California or Bay Area where I live, it's going to be slightly higher. But again, just to take things into consideration, that is the reality. There's not a whole bunch of different billionaires and millionaires walking around there just ready to snag all these women up. That's just not happening. But what is happening is that there are hardworking people out there who, yeah, it is a struggle right now in this economy for many people, but there's hardworking people out there that if they actually maybe came together, maybe it would be less of a struggle. But we're not coming together with anything if we're married to this idea that is toxic, or we're married to ideas that are not based upon reality. And I think that is one of the hardest things. To me, it seems as if when the harder things get in the economy or the rougher things get in this nation, the more we start to see some of these fantasy ideas being promoted. And I find that to be dangerous. And I don't want to support any lies. That's just me. So if you were here, please get those likes up, tag anybody on this discussion who you think may find it interesting. Yeah, and I see what's wrong with being average. Yeah, I don't think there is literally nothing wrong with being average. That's kind of my whole point. It's like this is kind of what's going on, and so just be aware. Now listen, I'm all for, planning your goals. You can have whatever goals you want, you can have whatever desires, you can shoot for the moon. What do they say? Maybe you'll land against the stars. I am so for that. I'm so for that. You should try your best, do your best, do the best that you can. But like I said, having faith does not deny reality. It does not overlook. It's just, it acknowledges, okay, this is what's happening. And then based upon that, it moves forward with a godly perspective, or it moves forward with, okay, well, this is what God has shown me, or this is what I believe to be true. But it doesn't just completely ignore things. It doesn't just completely, it doesn't like bury it and say, oh, I'm not going to look. Oh, I can't. It's like, no, this is the reality of what it is. Now I'm going to move forward with the power of God and try to make the best of it. But you first have to acknowledge, you first have to be like, this is the truth, right? This is the reality of what's happening today. We can't live necessarily in a fantasy bubble. That's what I'm saying. So this is, like I said, this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about, really, just really quick. Didn't want to spend too much time on here, but like I said, if we just look very, very briefly at what's going on as far as what your average person is making, and again, this is across the board, people aren't living like rock stars and movie stars. So now you could, based upon what we see in social media, it seems like that. But that is a false narrative. What we see online is definitely a false narrative. So do not be, like I said, do not be in any way, shape or form fooled by that. So that's my pitch. That is my, yes, wrong thing to say. That is my thoughts on it. But I have a few minutes if anybody wants to call in and share their thoughts on this idea of struggle love. I mean, what do you think about this whole idea? As I've said, I think oftentimes struggle love is used to explain just real life. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. Now, toxic, right? Toxic, beating people up, you know what I mean? Affairs, bad communication, baby daddy drama, baby mama drama, you in and out of jail. That's toxic. So like I said, I'm not saying that you got to settle for that. But as far as struggle love being your only option, yeah, you being with a person that's maybe making average income, you're making average income, and y'all struggle together to build your life, that's pretty much your only option. Because like I said, how many millionaires are going around there? And if you are in the billionaire class, how are you going to have access to them? Because like I said, the way they date and marry, at that point, they're like some of those folks are moving in like arranged marriages. They're marrying within families, right? They're marrying within other empires. They date on a totally different level. And even if you do aspire to date or marry outside of your class, which according to the OECD is, or did to the OEDC? It's one of those. I always get the acronyms mixed up. But according to that report, it's you marrying or just even leaving your class is really, really hard. Even if you are able to do that, now it's like you're competing with other families. Like, yeah, I just think people as girls, we go and we look at the Cinderella story and think, oh, that's going to be our story. And that happens for what, 0.001%. Like, how many people actually live that? That's what I'm saying. Like, if you think your story needs to look like the 0.01%, you're setting yourself up for success. And also, by the way, you are bypassing things that actually could be a really good story. You really could, like I said, get together with a guy who's making average income. He has ambition, you have ambition, you guys build a beautiful life. That's what most people did. That's what people have been doing for like thousands of years. But just now recently, women think that it's just supposed to come easy. And that is just strictly not the reality that we live in. It's just not what we live in. The OECD, yeah, I always get it mixed up. OECD. Yes, they are the ones that said that the US ranked last when it was comparing it to other countries, I think, developed first world countries, however you want to put it. So, like I said, I have a few minutes. Looks like we have Black in Effect calling in. Let's see. Hey, how's it going?
What's going on, Shay? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. So what you were speaking about just now was the ability for poorer and working class people to move up in class. And yes, that study showed that the US in developed countries is horrible, right?
It's
Horrible.
really
Like,
bad. Yeah, really bad.
you
So I'm
know,
like, what are we even talking about? Hypergamy, leveling up where?
and I put it in the comments. I really do think it's so. I think there might be some shady, backdoor alley forces going on here because we understand the socioeconomics of Black people in general, Black women specifically, and
Yeah,
so this Black women in luxury movement, and it is a movement because literally
yeah,
the word movement is in there. So
that's
it.
true.
I think that's on purpose. I think people. I think what this society has been selling us on is the dream of like upward mobility, literally since its founding. And
Mm,
when you have a class of people and you create an entire, class structure based on color, and these people are on the socioeconomic bottom perpetually, you want to
right.
always sell them on the dream of climbing out of that, even if the system stays the same. And so I'm not necessarily mad at Black women. I'm disappointed at the delusion. It's like, when did racism stop being racism? When did white supremacy stop being white supremacy? Right? Like, yeah, and I'll shut up in a minute. But I was checking out a divester channel the other day because I'm a sadomasochist apparently, and
You are? Is that
right.
what you said?
No, I'm saying that to myself. I
Oh,
kind
okay. I
of
was like,
right. So
wait,
like,
what? Is that what they called you? I've gotten called all kind of names, so I just
yeah.
don't
No,
know.
because if I'm checking out this divester channel, so
Okay.
obviously my blood pressure's going up, and so these are two graduate level Black women
Oh
who are
God.
talking about divesting in a very delusional way, and they're talking about class and money, and I'm like, but even if you were to date out and marry out, that white man most likely don't got the money you think he got.
He
You
doesn't.
just screwed yourself. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right. That's what I'm saying. And I mentioned that in the
mhm,
video that I just posted a few days ago, the false promise of
mhm.
Black love, where it's like, okay,
That was
so first of
actually
all,
one of the women I was talking about, Shay. She actually has a master's degree, and you hear how she sounds? Exactly. Yep, yep,
okay, so you
yep,
know what?
yep.
Hashtag I have, like I said, I've never spoken with her, so I'm
Hmm.
like, I can't, I'm not here to bash her character or who she is. I'm like,
Hmm.
she could be a lovely person. Just as far as some of the different ideas that I saw, I've seen spewed.
Hmm.
I just was in complete disagreement with what was shared. So that's why I did the video, and I was like, hey, by the way, let's consider this, because what I'm hearing, what
Hmm.
I've heard, I don't think it's actually factual. Everybody has a right to their own opinion. She has a right to her own opinion. I do. You do. But as far as like this being shown as fact, I actually don't think this is factual, and here's why. So but and like I said in the video, I kind of talked about that, where it's like, okay, if we even look at the percentage of people who do marry interracially, it's still pretty small. And then once we look at that, if you are able to marry interracially, it's like now marrying hypergamously, that goes even smaller, because if you're talking about like white wealth or wealth within certain ethnic groups, they're generally more cautious about making sure that wealth maintains within
You
power.
I think one of the biggest, and I'm a community college dropout, but all the rest of my family is degreed up, right? So
Okay.
I'm the mess up. But you know what? I really truly believe that they sold us on college, and I actually want to go back. So I'm not railing against college because I didn't finish, but they sold us on this as a way to kind of climb your way up. And for a few people, they actually did climb. They did actually climb up. But I think we're dealing with the actuality that most of us won't. We'll get our degrees, we'll be in student loan debt, and we may make more income, but we won't move up in class. And that was the lie, right? It wasn't overtly said, but it was suggested that if you get your degree, you will move up in class if you just keep your head down and make this money. And that's not actually what's happening. And then what I think happens is that even though we have very educated, very intelligent, and maybe even well-meaning people, black women namely, I don't think they know how to process the fact that, yeah, you were sold a lie. White capitalists lied to you. And now what? Is that
You
black men's
know,
fault that white wealthy people lied to you?
and it's so crazy to say that, because I think a part of that, when I do recognize that, some of the women, maybe some of the divestors you talked about, they have degrees, they have education. Just because you have education does not necessarily mean that you know it all. It doesn't mean that
Yes.
you are actually, because it's like you could have the education in psychology and be completely clueless in the economy and have no interest in it. And so I think sometimes what happens is, I say this as a woman, I believe, this is just me, but I believe women's logic is first emotions. Not to say we can't think, can't say we can't parse out numbers and look, empirically, but we process first emotionally. Our logic is first emotional, and then once we get past that, we can go into some of the more technical stuff. Whereas, men, it's a little bit different. And I think there's some of these, really educated, intelligent women, but at the end of the day, they're just, it can become the fifis. It can become more of a fifi situation or feeling situation. And if, to your point, you don't know how to address the reality of what's coming, or the reality that you're living is too overwhelming for your emotions to handle, then it's like you can't look at things empirically. You can't look at things logically, because to do so would be overwhelming. And I think that's why sometimes you'll see these really smart, educated women who it'll maybe come to a particular thing, and it's just like, you're not using your brain.
They revert to the bitter, angry 12-year-old.
Yeah. No, literally.
Yeah.
Literally. It looks like I have another caller on. What's going on?
And I'll just move out the way in one second. That to me is just the major issue. That's all I want to say. It's sad to have educated people, but when we get to the relationship realm and the intimacy realm, we all turn into, like I said, emotional 12-year-olds.
Emotional 12. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I will say, I had this moment in my life where I remember I was working at an agency. I had been working in maybe corporate about 5-6 years. I graduated from a really, really good school, really hard to get into. I had gotten like all A's throughout high school, high GPA in college, all these different things. And I'm working hard, I'm saving, doing all the right things, don't really have debt like that. And I'm like, I'm looking around and I'm like, even with all of these different things, there is no way, at the rate that I'm able to save, there's like no way I'll be able to afford a house. There's no way I'll be able to afford a good retirement. Like I'm looking and I'm like, something just isn't adding up. And I did everything right. I did everything that I was supposed to do. But just, again, the cost of housing, all these different things, I'm like, there is something that's not going on right. And like, so this is before I met my husband, and he started to kind of like help, I guess, challenge me on certain things. But I had that aha moment where I was just like, wait, what is going on? Like, what am I missing? So Yeah, good stuff. But I do appreciate you calling on. And hey, Hakeem.
Hey, Shows, how are you doing?
It's pretty good. I'm pretty good. So what do you think on the topic?
So, yeah, I think this is a good topic as always. I think the focus of this whole struggle of and the media influence, it just seems that I think we as people, and especially some of our women, we just need to shift our focus away from just you know shifting our attention away from anything toxic, whether that be media, friends, or just things that are out there. Because sometimes what may happen that if we're not careful, that may put us in a deeper hole than what we intend to be in, if that makes any sense. So it just seems that I saw someone make a good comment about consider struggle love, just things
It
like
looks like you're
it things that it's just the mindset just needs to change. And you and I talked about it, I think, a couple of lives ago about things like debt to equity ratio and what people should be looking at. And the whole thing that you can make 100K, you can make whatever money you want in the world, but if you're not very good at managing it and you don't go above that poverty mindset, it doesn't matter what kind of money you make, you're going to always find a way to put yourself in debt.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And
So
like
it's just
before too,
yeah.
like
Go ahead.
making $100,000 out here, you have a wife and two kids, you're at the poverty line. I have friends of mine who work at Apple, which is a incredibly good company to work for. I've been working there for years and moving back home with their parents, with his wife and kids, because it's so hard to afford anything in the Bay Area if you are if you're a family. And like I said, this is somebody who went to school, got an education, works incredibly hard. You're talking 13, 14 hours a day and still can't get ahead. And I'm like, again, I'm not saying these things to try to be a Debbie Downer, because it's like, I think, yeah, you should dream and you can work hard, but I think we got to do these things within context, and we have to do these things within, I guess, the context of what's actually going on. Because fantasy is, somebody's living on a fantasy. That is the quickest way, I think, to hit disappointment and disillusionment. And I think sometimes that's why there's women out there who they do struggle with anxiety and depression. I mean, there's other reasons for it, but I wonder how much of it also is just driven by not having a grasp on reality and comparing your life or your struggle to a fantasy that was never real to begin with,
Shay and
Right.
Akeem, imagine this. You're working for a Fortune 500 company with $1 trillion market cap, and you're living with your parents. Well, damn.
Exactly.
Mm,
In my life personally, I can count on my head. I have a
that
friend
part.
that I have two of my friends who are in their 40s. These are single African American women, 40, working full time, moved back home with their parents multiple times. Like I said, I have a friend of mine's family with like married husband, kids, move back home with their parents. It's like, and this, I mean, this has been a trend. Even they're saying millennials in general, you're just seeing a lot of them, kind of having to move back and having to try to.
80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Me and you, we have like, this is me and Chase thing, right? We have this revolving thing where I always bring this up, right? Like 40% of Americans can't afford a $400 emergency, 60% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency, and 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. When you know those numbers, I mean, like,
How are
I'm really hesitant to insult people by calling them dusty or bums. Even black women, I don't insult black women's socioeconomic position because I understand what's going on in the world. And quite frankly, nobody really want to have the anti-capitalism talk because then I start sounding like a whole communist out here, right? So
okay?
go ahead
Fair
and
point.
deal with what's going on. Then for me, that's
Fair
how it
point.
go. But I'll shut up.
Yeah. So sorry, Hakeem. I don't know if you had any other points on it, but I think, yeah, like I said, everything you said was on point. Everything you said was on point, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I would hope and encourage anybody to still try to live their best life and work hard, but just try to do it within the lens of reality, and don't be so quick to his earlier point, to judge or to point fingers at somebody else if they are struggling, because I'm like, well, actually, by the way, you probably are too, and most people you know are, because that's kind of what it means to live in America at this point.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just sad. I'm like, and I posted something on my channel with the income of different fields of Americans, right? So it got government workers, private sector, self-employed, and a couple of other sectors. And I'm like, nobody's breaking like 80 grand. Nobody. Right, out of all those different groups of people, I think the most paid is like government workers, right? Federal government workers. And I'm like, so where are all these ballers that everybody keep on running into? Where's all the millionaires that everybody runs into every day? Where's the billionaires, y'all? Oh, everybody's talking about billionaires like there's more than 2,800 billionaires on the planet. There's only 2,800 billionaires on the planet. Where are all these people y'all talking about?
Listen, my parents worked really, really hard. So I lived in some very, very nice areas. We were working. I worked at the time throughout college, I worked in a golf course. It was like a gated community, and the home, it was $1 million. It was $1 million complex. Like your average home is like maybe like 2 million starting. So it's like, and there it's like, again, what I was saying before, like you're in a certain class, you're in a certain economic standing. It's a totally different culture. You don't just go in there and you look cute and then, oh, well, I'm going to marry a millionaire. And it's like I said, now, because let's be honest, a lot of those golf clubs, a lot of those millionaires, they're older white men. This is older white couples that are coming from white wealth. Of course, I'm not saying you'll see Chinese, you'll see Black here and there, you'll see Indian, depending on where you go, but it's predominantly older white men, it's older white wealth, and they're not bending over backwards to share their wealth with Black women in particular. Yeah, they'll sleep with you, they'll have fun with you, they may throw a few $100s in your face, but they're not, as far as this older white man now going to wife up this young Black woman and prance her around his friends at his job, at his corporate office, take him to the golf course, take him home to his family, take him to the board meeting, or just things like that. Like, is he going to now, this white man that is incorporated in a largely white society, is he now chomping at the bits to get a Black woman on his side as a representative of his legacy? Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
So what we're talking about, Shay, is the legacy of anti-Blackness, right? And like, you can't educate your way out of that. That's one of the lies that came out of Jim Crow. Okay, we'll pull the guards down, we'll pull the gate down a little bit, and just go to school, get your education. And obviously, I'm not telling anyone to not do that, right? Go make as much money as you possibly can. That doesn't compromise your morals, right, and your values. But you have to still remember what society you live in. And I think so many Black people, what's breaking them is they're running into that like invisible barrier, and they're like shattering along the invisible barrier, refusing to call what is what is. You're hitting the anti-Black wall. That's what it is. And you could, like you said, you can have sex with these guys. They might even dance around and play around with you for 6 months. You might even get 9 months out the deal. But at the end of the day, will you get the ring? Probably not.
Yeah,
So I mean that, and it's sad, but that is what it is. And I understand the lie, because we all were lied to as millennials, even regardless of race. We were all sold a particular dream. And what we're dealing with as people that are the oldest of us as millennials are in our 41, maybe now 42. So the oldest of us are like around that age, and we're really in like a super panic mode, because many of us still haven't had homes yet, never been married, don't have any children, never bought a new car. And I just like to tell people, it's not your fault, but also it's not Black men's fault either. You live in an anti-Black world that's a hyper-capitalist society. What you thought was gonna happen? you know, I'll shut up. But it, I speak this way, and like you said, I don't. It's not to be a Debbie Downer, but it is to tell people what we're actually living, so that we don't come out here blaming other people, being mad at other people for what's gone on this planet for the past 500 years, right?
Or you can start to plan. Then you can plan accordingly, because, like I said,
there's exactly no yes.
Try to think to have a better future or better outcome if you're not able to accurately assess what's going on now. So it looks like we do have a few other callers in here. I think, in the interest of time, I'm going to add both of you guys in here. and we're going to have a bit of a group discussion. So I do appreciate you, Mr. Black in Effect. It's always
Yes, sir.
good to have you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying sir, bosses. Sorry, but
No,
yes, ma'am.
it's all good. And hey, Eugene, hey, Hakeem, I think you got kicked out. It's all good. But we're just talking about, as you know, struggle love, and the reason I wanted to bring up income in particular is because oftentimes when I see the struggle love conversation, it is very much around this idea of hypergamy and women not settling, and especially not settling on men who don't make a certain amount of income. And like I said, when we just looked at the numbers, we looked at what was going on, we clearly saw that most men don't really make, people in general aren't making money like that. So if we have these really high standards, unrealistic standards, then we essentially have priced ourselves out of the dating market. And at that point, it's not because it's our fault. It's not because it's not because it's their fault. It's like, no, it's our fault. We have accepted unrealistic standards. We are placing unrealistic standards on people. And that can be really detrimental, especially when I think it is now encouraging women to pass by people, men who could maybe actually be really good partners. So that's kind of what we're talking about. But I'm curious to hear from you. I'll start with you, Eugene, still, since I know you've been hanging out for some time.
Yeah, and I've actually said this on the chat. This past Friday and Sunday, Danica Marie talked about a couple of examples of women who, was with men. They were going through the struggle of, but didn't want to go through it anymore because they were falling impatient. They broke up with a man, right? And then all of a sudden, the men who they broke up with started doing well for themselves. So now they want to come back. And for what it seems is, and I think this is with anybody, they want to reach that high, those outreach dreams, but don't want to put in the work to do it.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And these, women, they don't want to, and I heard this before, they don't want to build with men, they just want to get in where, somebody who's well made. If that's where this fantasy stuff, come from. They don't want to put in the work at all.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I do think, I don't know what or why or how, but I do certainly think that somewhere down the line there was a group of us women who decided that it was supposed to be easy. That it just decided, like going back to, I think, Black in Effect's point earlier, where it's like this luxury movement, this Black woman in luxury movement. That's something else I think I need to study a little bit more deeply. But the fact that that's even a thing, Black women in luxury, which, of course, I understand if the idea is to start to see Black women positioned in a better manner, okay. But I think instead of maybe marketing a certain way, I think it's better to actually look at the reality of what's going on. Because if we're pretending, all these Black women are in luxury doing all this stuff, but in reality, 1/3 of us are at or below the poverty line, what's going on? What are we actually doing now for painting a picture that is not actually reflective of reality? And I'm like, if you just look at the history, period, Black women in America, it's like, when has there ever been a time where there wasn't struggle? I'm like what? I'm like, what reality are you from? Where all of a sudden this just came easy? Like, have you talked to your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother? Like, do you know the nation you're in? Like, so, yeah.
And also, and one thing I've seemed to have noticed is that, the ones that do not want to struggle, sometimes I wonder, do they want the man themselves, or do they want the lifestyle they provide?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, right. That part.
Yeah, that's one thing that's a wonder.
I don't even know that's a wonder. Who was that? Hakeem, was that you? I don't know who said that.
Oh, that was Mr. Z. I think that had the sound effect.
Yeah, that wasn't even a sound effect. That was me myself. But I agree with him 100.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know that that's now. Of course, that's not everyone, but of course, the lifestyle. Yeah, I don't even know that a lot of women really want marriage today, to be honest.
No.
And I think most women today aren't marriage material. And I think they'd be better off not getting married until they figured out themselves, or because as far as what it actually requires, you know what I mean, to try to maintain a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship, and work together with somebody and not always get what you want and just learn all these different things. Some of them are just like, I don't want that. I'm not interested. And I'm like, if that's really you, then yeah, you probably shouldn't get married, because marriage would be oppressive to you. And yeah, you would be a bad wife, right? And so I think honestly, most women maybe want the wedding, maybe they want the looks, they want maybe what seems to be the benefits, but the struggle that's associated with it, heck no, I don't want it. Just the issue is there no scenario exists where there's not going to be struggle. If you decide to be married, or if you decide to really partner with a person, then it's like, yeah, there's going to be certain struggles associated with that. There's also going to be certain benefits. Like obviously poverty, families who work together tend to have lower poverty rates than single people. If you decide to be single and you don't want to submit to a man, as a lot of women will say, because women are just like, I don't want to submit. I don't want to have to be, under his whatever. Like this idea of submission is just like I don't know, it's just like kryptonite. Then okay, that's fine. But now you're going to have to work hard to sustain yourself for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And that's hard in this economy. That's competitive, very competitive. And also where women in particular, Black women, also have certain, just have it worse when it comes to like that just certain things. Like if we just look at our numbers of how we're not doing all that well. So it's like you can struggle in marriage and try to learn how to make it work and have a maybe more comfortable life economically because you're working with another person, or you can struggle by yourself and dream and fantasize. But I don't know if that's going to give you what you want. My thoughts.
And I have a take. Mr. Eugene, did I cut you off, or did you have?
Oh no, no, you're good.
Okay. I had a take on this as well. We have and Miss Sade, you have a fan as always, a divester fan in the chat. I think her name is #BlackWoman, and she made a good point. I think this helps for us to address that. Her claim was that struggle love is only considered struggle love when a Black woman deals with a Black man. So, in that, I think we should illustrate to her what the studies find and the stats find, that the average net worth of the average Black woman, I believe, is under $1. I think it's in the negatives.
Yeah.
Wealth of $5, bro.
$5. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. I'm not trying to correct you on that. I'm just saying wealth of $5, which means still nothing, really.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
Exactly. And the debt, if you compile the debt. And here's what I think it comes down to. And I don't know what you guys think of this. We've all heard the term SMV, sexual marketplace value. And I think that statistic bears in mind that they misplay their sexual marketplace value. What do I mean by that? I mean that normally you would try to find the man that you desire at the peak stage of, your lifespan. And that for women, as Kevin Samuels defines, is before the danger zone. Most of them, they work so hard, put so much emphasis and stress on themselves as far as finishing their school, finishing their education, where they wait to find the man that they should have picked in their 30s, and they spend their 20s focusing on their career, focusing on, having girls trips and what have you. And so when you do that, you've actually diminished your value. And also you diminish the value of the man that you can attract. So if we look at it that way, most of us as Black men, we're not going to hit our peak. This is men in general. We're not going to hit our peak until we start approaching the 40s and upwards.
Yeah, that's true. And that's what Kevin Samuels, that's why, like I mentioned earlier, I was like, this is what I appreciate about his channel. I'm not saying everything is perfect, but he kind of draws a pretty clear line of realistically, this is what's going to happen. And it's like, really the only way to avoid maybe the financial struggles, if you will, or to marry into a certain level of comfort economically, is if you are ready to age gap date. And that is not popular in the Black community. You don't see young, 20-year-old women dating 45, 50-year-olds and that being celebrated. Heck, that's just not celebrated. So I'm like, but realistically, if you do want to do the hypergamy thing, that is the most realistic way that that's going to happen, because even today, majority of the wealth is in, I think, the boomer generation. That's the majority of the wealth
Yep.
in the Black
Facts.
community. And as you mentioned earlier, men don't even really start hitting their financial stride until they're about 40s. And God even knows how, with millennials are on the struggle bus. Like, all different,
The whole generation.
right? So, yeah. So
You know, half of, and Akim, I'll move out of the way in 10 seconds. More than
Okay,
half
that's
of
good.
American men, regardless of race, earn, and I'm above this by a, a couple $1,000. Well, way more than that, but more than half of American men earn less than 40 grand a year. Period. Like, women got to deal with that before we can even have any type of other conversation. If you want to swirl and divest, that's great. If you want to, even end up with other women, that's great. It doesn't matter. More than half of American men earn less than 40 grand a year. Y'all got to deal with them numbers before we can even talk about anything else.
I mean, and you know what's so funny, because this is
Mic drop.
When we talk about the economy and money or whatever, it's like it's always men. Not to say there's not women out there who don't want to have these kind of conversations, but it's certainly not popular in most YouTube digital marketing spaces. You don't see women over here talking about, like, hey, actually, by the way, women, we're not really bossing up. We're kind of broke, and we need to figure out how to do better. We talk about that. Like, that's not a popular message, but that's actually what our women are dealing with when they're not on YouTube, when they're not on social media, when they're not, you know what I mean, being a troll and calling other people mammies and pygmies, or pretending like they're leveling up with their white, zaddy. What their life is actually portraying to them is the fact that there are bills and there are financial struggles. Sometimes there's depression, sometimes there's anxiety, and sometimes they just simply don't know how to deal with it. And so instead of dealing with the reality, it's a lot easier, in my humble opinion, to latch onto a fantasy that will likely never exist. And to me, I think that's actually detrimental.
And they tell on themselves when their energy is focused on creating this narrative about Black men, creating this narrative that it's struggle of whenever you deal with a Black man, because the women who can get the man that they desire, they've played their cards right. It's just as simple as that. You don't need to look at any further, because it baffles me, because it's just so obvious. I mean, if you're winning, you're not going to be online complaining, and you're not going to be in the chat. And if you're articulate enough, you come up and debate your point, which they won't do. They'll sit in the chat because they know that their fallacies will be exposed. But it's very simple. They misplayed their SMV value, and we can already guess their age range when they have these disputes in the chat, because if they're winning, they have no real complaints, and their energy should be focused on why am I not winning, versus who else, blaming another group of men that never met them why they're losing.
No, and that's what I would say. I think accountability is personal accountability, I think, is really in that's like step one. We can point our fingers everywhere. I'm like right now going through a 12-step program. I kind of posted about this, and like one of the first things that they say is like, look, you can focus on this person's issue, that person's issue, but you can't control that. So the best way to start to try to find peace is to look in the mirror and actually look at, what are you doing or what are you not doing? What can you control? So I think and again, this goes back to sometimes some of us ladies maybe needing, I don't know if we need a scapegoat, we need something else to take our mind off of it. But it's like, no, you got to start with yourself.
Shay, can I describe something to you that I observe about you? I liken it to being on the plantation, right? You're one of the sisters that was in the house, and you're trying to tell all the field Negroes, listen, it ain't what you think. It ain't. We need to run, because y'all think once you get in the house, it's gonna be fine. You sleep in master's bed, and you be in his bed warmer, and he might do certain strange things with you. It ain't what you think. And the field Negroes are like, yeah, you just saying that because you don't want us to be in the house. Right? Like, that's what I'm hearing. Like, you like the way you described your lifestyle, you got to rub elbows with some of these people that these women are coveting relationships with, or at least want to rub elbows with, and you're trying to tell them, y'all don't want to be with these dudes, and even if y'all are, there's a certain level of like a power dynamic you ain't used to. The way he gonna talk to you, you're not used to. Y'all not ready for this, and they don't want to. They don't want to even hear it from you. So I'm like, God damn, who y'all gonna listen to?
I mean,
Can we get a bucket of water to cool you down?
Right. Thank you.
that's funny. That's funny. So, yeah, I know certain talks aren't always going to be as popular or as well received, but they're needed. They're needed. So, like I said, I'm going to try to do my part at the very least to put the information out there. Some people are going to hate it, and some people are not going to appreciate it, and that's okay. But for those who are like, okay, I'm tired of my life, or I'm tired of feeling like what I'm wanting is completely different than what I'm living, then let's talk. You know what I mean? Then we can have a conversation. But like I said, some people are content to be in their fantasy, and that's okay. It's just mean that you're probably not going to like me.
It's gonna look real ugly in the next to me. I'm 35 years old. I'm guessing all of us are somewhere around my age, maybe a little bit younger. Man, I think in the next decade or two, I'm telling y'all, this is gonna look really, because a lot of people, younger millennials, we still got a little bit of hope, especially the women. They got a little bit of hope. They'll squeeze in under the door before the gate closed, right? Before the door closed, before 40, 45. But in
That's
15,
yeah.
20 years, ooh, well, y'all want to talk about antidepressants? Ooh, it ain't gonna. I'm telling y'all now, mark Mr. Z's words. In the next decade and a half, 2 decades, it's not gonna look nice. It's gonna look real ugly because we're trying to give these people a warning now. Change your mindset while you still got a little bit of time left. And they think we're crazy. They think we want to hate on them and bash them. And it's not that. We're part of the same community, and what you go through is going to affect me. So this hypergamy thing and this idea of struggle of, and like Shay Sade said, with the history of America and specifically Black people in America, for you to just pop out in the early part of the 21st century calling all these different things that are the realities, struggle love, struggle situations. I mean, it's the height of delusion. I don't even know what to say to that.
I mean, with that, I know personally white friends who are by that definition struggle of. I'm like, if it's just a socioeconomic thing, I'm like, are you kidding me? Let's talk. Like, one of my friends, I interviewed you last week. One of my friends who's white girl, and she's like talking about how she was homeless a couple of times. This is when we look at her, someone looking at her be like, oh, that's just a white girl. She ain't know. She was homeless a couple of times. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just the stories. The stories are endless. But I'm like, again, if you're living in America, then I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know who you're talking to, but this is what it is. And again, I just think you're a lot better off. People are a lot better off when they can look at the reality for what it is, and just be honest and realistic. Like, to me, that shouldn't seem like should be a difficult thing. But
most people don't even got $1,000 in their savings account, and we over here talking about struggle love. Could somebody please explain to me, where did Americans get off? Especially Black people. Where did we get off?
I don't even understand. Well, so it looks like I do have a few more callers, people calling in. So
okay, I'm a for real drop now. I don't want to monopolize the space. Thank you for having me up, Shay. Let me go inside before my girlfriend take my head off. And thanks for having me up again. All right, y'all. Later.
Always good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm about to drop as well because I gotta get up in the morning.
All good. All good. Well, thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
So I do have a few other people who are calling in, y'all. I can stay on longer if I get some more support. But I'm starting to get hungry, and it'll be almost an hour and a half. If I get some more super chats, then I'm happy to stay on and continue to chat with you guys a few more minutes. If not, then I will wrap up and eat dinner because I'm hungry. But Hakeem, do you have any other words or any other final thoughts that you would like to?
Yeah, I think you covered it all. Sorry, my audio cut off again. I'm having some struggles. Thank goodness I'm not in your case. I see what you guys go through as content creators with streaming and whatnot. So, but no, I think Mr. Z covered it all, and you did as well. it just really ties down to this, and I just want to give a public message to our divester sisters who, you seem to have enabled a lot of them as fans, because again, I think they wish that they emulate what you got going on. I'll just tell them, it's just as simple. Black men, you see that any type of black man you get with is struggle of, so no problem. Just don't deal with us. Go where you're accepted. Go where you feel that you won't be dealing with struggle of, and focus all your energy on attracting the kind of men, as Kevin Samuel says, that you wish to attract. Don't focus on us. We're the problem. Focus on yourself, and you'll get the outcomes you can, if you're still within that SMV value that you can attract those men. And if not, well, I'm sure you'll find another scapegoat to take you off the hook there.
So you said that's your message to divestors?
That's the message I got for tonight, and then that's all I got.
Okay,
so
there you go. Well, I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate you showing your support as always.
No worries. It's always my pleasure. I got you some more times, and you definitely enjoy the rest of your
night. Okay, you too.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I've had some new callers in. I want to stay on, y'all, but I need some support to do it, because this has been a long stream, and like I said, I'm getting kind of hungry. So if I get some more super chats in, then I will gladly stay on. Otherwise, we will wrap it up and we will continue later on this week. But I do appreciate all of you guys who have called in up to this point and have shown support. Always appreciated. And, I think, again, there were some really powerful points made. I will say for myself, again, I do believe that it's good to dream, and it's good to have goals, and it's good to work hard for them. Just make sure that you're doing it within the context of reality. My main thing was to challenge any notion out there about struggle love, and that struggle love is always associated with, I don't know, maybe being with a black man, as I guess that was being said in the comments, that struggle love is anytime you're with a black man. Obviously, that's a self-hating narrative. That's dangerous. Or also this idea that struggle love is anything where you're not financially set. When we look at the numbers, and when we look at what's happening just economically all across the board for all ethnicities, people are going through economic struggles. And that doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they're evil. It just means that's just the reality of what it is. So I think when we just buy into these lies that I think are really damaging, it can really, really, I think, lead to bad decision making, and it can lead to bad results in the lives of women. And you can have women who are passing by really good eligible guys. You can have women who are going after unhealthy guys or unhealthy situations, all in the name of some of this BS that we've believed. And so, like I said, we went over some real basic numbers to say, hey, what's the average person making today? Hey, what is actually happening in America today? What are people actually, earning? Just to kind of set a baseline. And again, we see that most people across the board aren't really doing that well. So that, I think, should actually be the baseline of how you choose. If you're going to have these high economic standards or high financial standards, well, where do you fall? Because most women, especially most black women aren't really bossing up like that, And again, if we're not bossing up, then should we really have all these standards and say, oh, he needs to be making at least 100 this, 150 this, he needs to have all this? If one third of us are at or below the poverty line, do we really need to be having these unrealistic standards? That's my main thing. So I do appreciate you, Hakeem, for the $2 for the chat. It's always very, very much appreciated. Let's see. Oh, okay. You know what I did? Jojo, I saw you calling earlier, then you dropped off. Okay, I think I'll take Jojo in because I know you were hanging out there. And then I'm gonna wrap this up. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So let me just say thank you for having me on. Yeah, most definitely. At the time I was trying to tune in and had a lot of other stuff going on, so I had to drop back off. But I wanted to touch on this topic with you. And this gender war thing that's going on. because I know that it's motivated by the dominant society. You know, I'll be a fool to sit here and say that the dominant society doesn't have a play in this. And another thing I've learned too is that in order to keep us divided, everybody benefits off of racism towards black people. Everybody. And when you got people fighting in the house, like basically black men, black women going at each other, so you got these women talking about they don't want to be with a struggle love, and one sister talking about, I seen something and she say, well, if you don't have no felonies and all that stuff, I don't know what planet this sister was born or whatnot. But at the end of the day, a lot of brothers done been to jail. You know, a lot of our sisters done been to jail.
Yeah,
you know,
incarceration for women is going up, unfortunately.
black folks been to jail around here. You know, so at the end of the day, you know, to judge people based on some of the misgivings that happen in our society only shows you how short-sighted we could be towards each other, right? That's why it's so hard to really educate our people on systematic racism, because a lot of us don't know how to look at it. A lot of people are not in tune or fine-tuned enough to see it from a collective standpoint. They're always looking at it from an individualistic standpoint, and one person feels that they're doing better than the other just because they got some crumbs from the system of white supremacy. Take, for instance, right, and I ain't trying to go too far off the track, but take, for instance, this situation with the sister that the nominees for the department, for the Supreme Court, right? They choose all these black women, right? And guess who most of them married to? I think five out of 7 of them married to white men. Right? None of them from America originally. None of these sisters. Like their background is from somewhere else. And the crazy thing about it is that they would tell us that we're advancing in society because we got a black face in a high place telling us nothing. And like one of the brothers say on another platform, feeding us them butter biscuits. You know, feeding us them butter biscuits full of nothing burgers. Full of nothing. How does that benefit us? None of their laws are in place to protect black people. None of their laws are in place to advance us, to help the so-called poverty-stricken inner city neighborhoods, to kind of intervene with our children on the behalf. They got a whole bunch of stuff to benefit women, though. You know, and I look at this from the perspective that if we don't get our stuff together, that's why I wasn't trying to be harsh to the little sister that was murdered by, or however she died, right, with the white guy, right?
Yeah, I know you're talking about Lauren.
Yeah, Laura Smith. I wasn't trying to be harsh on that. I was just being direct, man. Like, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to start cutting our ties with these people because they're like a virus on us, and if we can't take them with us. Because they'll bring that stuff over there with us and have us all messed up. I had a brother try to argue with me about the sister that so-called divested and saying, man, but she black, you supposed to still stand with her. I looked at him, I'm like, what? So you telling me that I need to stand with somebody if they were alive, right? They wouldn't stand with me at all. They'll turn me over to the system of white supremacy. They'll set me up for the system of white supremacy.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think I did a video about that a few days ago where I know there's very much a mixed there was such a mixed response for that case. You know, some black men saying, "Hey, no, you need to. It doesn't matter. We got to stand for this." And then some were just like, "Isn't she the one that called black men coloreds and said that she wanted to divest?" And it was like this whole tension. And so, you know, I remember when I posted about that case, I was like, "Man, this is so sad." You know, beautiful young black woman who got caught up in a situation. I know there's still things that are being investigated, but just from some of the different posts, some of the different things that she shared, it's very possible and very likely that if she wasn't an divestor, at the very least, divestor adjacent. And like I said, that is to me where I have no problem with anybody dating or marrying interracially. I think if it's done for the right reasons, I personally have no issue with it. But I think it's the pedalization, and it is almost the worship of something to the point to where you turn a blind eye, you look past red flags, you sweep over certain issues. It's like that is really, really dangerous, especially when it's now being motivated from self-hate. And I see a lot of self-hatred driving women, black women, that being incentivized. I mean, Dr. Tiazon Johnson, he had a live earlier today. I was on, I'm probably going to share it. It was really powerful, but it kind of talked about this, where it's like, this divide that we've seen, it didn't happen overnight. No. It's been incentivized over time. There's been certain policies, there's been certain things that happen that have really helped instigate this chasm, if you will, between men and women in the Black community. Right. And this broken down narrative that we have about each other. And it's like, that was by design. And so the more you're educated and you understand this, and then I think when you look at what's happening just in general, I think it's good to be aware, and it's good to really be thoughtful and really ask yourself, well, why do I believe what I believe versus just believing the popular narrative, when the popular narrative has never really been in the favor of Black folks, This is what it is.
Never. So, and what I could say on that too, right? Because I know you're trying to get to your food. What I could say on that, right, is that majority of the time our people are miseducated, and the information that is passed on to the youth is either impartial, biased, or covered in pain. And a lot of these sisters, I can't say that these sisters are real women that's on this online thing. A lot of them, I think they're white trolls that kind of work together to cause confusion and chaos, to pose like they're Black women.
I think so. Yeah.
They do that because what happens is they know that there's an emotional pull or emotional drive. So if they can strike a chord with another brother, that just say it was a brother that was like, okay, he just got his feelings hurt, right? Mm-hmm. And he's around a clique of other brothers that already are talking about, man, Black women ain't this or Black women ain't that. He can come on this live stream or whatever, get triggered by one of these comments by these so-called supposed to be divestors in the chat and say, man, fuck that junk.
Because it's like, why are divestors hanging out in the community that they divested from?
Right. Yeah, it's like this right here, over here, we're trying to stay together over here. We're talking about you guys because we want to educate our people on how fractured their personalities are. Like, we need to stay complete. If I ever see myself swaying or getting myself into a mindset to where I feel that the Black woman is a dusty or she is nothing and all that stuff, man, I need to check myself, because I'm calling my mama that, I'm calling my sister that, and just like these sisters that so-called supposed to be divesting, they're doing that to their brothers. They're turning their back on the same. That sister, another hit. That sister that was that got found murdered up there or dead or whatever up there in Connecticut, man. Guess who was all on that dang on TV talking about her? Her brothers, who were Black men. Yeah. The same colors that she's talked about. The same dusties that these sisters be talking about. The same Black men are trying to get justice for this sister. Her brothers. You know, that's why I said it's not on me to fight that struggle or fight that battle or whatever that is, because, you know, at the end of the day, there are other sisters like you, my woman, you know, other women in this world that adore the black man that need my protection first. You know, y'all are prioritized before everybody else. You know what I'm saying? You know, we gonna protect and provide for anybody. We gonna protect and provide for the women that adore us, recognize us, and want us around. That's what we gonna do, you know. So yeah, it's all systematic racism to keep us divided. I could go into a deep what you call it? What's that thing that they write? Huh?
You talking about a deep monologue?
I can go into a monologue. I can go into a what's the thing when they write for their doctorate? Good gracious.
You know what? When I'm hungry, I stop forgetting words. Dissertation, maybe?
Yeah, dissertation. Yeah, I can go into a dissertation, you know, but yeah, it's about my bedtime myself, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, we get older, things start to change, you feel me? So, you know, I just want to, you know, keep it all the way above with you on that, man, because a lot of time our people, we're miseducated. And if you are a divester in the chat and you really is against so-called against black love and all that stuff, well, why? Ask yourself, why are you here? Real simple, you know. So I appreciate everything you do. I'm gonna show you some love. I just want to hit you up on the super chat, because you don't get that money off the rip. So, you know, I got your cash app. It be floating across the screen. You know what I'm saying? But much love. Yeah, I'm gonna stay tuned in, man. You know, you got my support. I appreciate everything you do. I appreciate the education that you're dropping, and how you are inspiring other sisters, you know what I'm saying, and standing with them, going on this journey to connect the dots with black media, because we got to control the propaganda from here on out. We can't let white media continue to write this narrative of BS and lies about us that is not true. You know, because when we go and look at the data and statistics, black folks sticking together, man. You know, the only thing we got to get better with is spending our money.
That's a whole nother topic.
Right. But much love.
Yeah.
No doubt. Peace.
Take care. Yes, so this has been a fun call. Again, shout out to Hakeem for the $10 on the super chat. I don't know if I did that already, but just in case I missed it. Appreciate you guys calling in. Have actually quite a few callers, but I mentioned before, I am hungry and would need some more support to continue on this long call. But I think this was good. I didn't know I was going to have so many calls. You say, can you do a part 2? That actually might not be a bad idea if I did a part 2. Tomorrow I have another live coming up with Riva TV. I haven't posted it yet, but you guys are the first to hear about it. Well, actually, no, the members were, but I have another chat with her coming tomorrow. So, you know, maybe after that or after we discuss, we can have more of a call in. But this was good. I have so many more callers. I wish I could take all of you guys, but like I said, I'm getting pretty hungry and I need to eat. And in the absence of super chats, I think that is my cue to turn it down, to sign off. But I appreciate you guys. Again, tune in tomorrow for another discussion, another chat. I will be interviewing Riva TV. That'll be fun. She's a lovely woman if you have not heard about her. If you're around, we're actually going to be talking, I think, around 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 6 o'clock her time. So we're going to be making that a little earlier, since I generally don't go live this late. But anyways, this has been fun. I have plenty more discussions and topics and lives planned. So stay tuned. And don't worry. I have other call-in shows, plenty other call-in shows where you guys will be able to comment and share your perspective. So I do appreciate all of you guys who have hung out with me tonight. And yeah, stop by tomorrow. We'll talk later. Bye.